called the Gold Bug, which is evidently about gold, and Decipher. And people say that this story is probably based on the Gold Bug. And there's also another story about a man in Kentucky that supposedly found a silver mine that was the richest silver mine ever, and then turned around and buried all of the silver.
Okay, wait.
Dug it up, buried it, and then disappeared.
Why dig it up? Why dig it up to begin with? Huh?
We were just talking about the Toynbee tiles, right? And in that episode, we talked a little bit about I think it was David Mamet who wrote 4 a.m., and I feel like this is another kind of case of which came first, right?
Chicken or the egg?
Yeah, like did Poe write his story because he saw this manuscript, or did this manuscript come to be, or I guess it was the pamphlet. Sorry, did the pamphlet come to be because of Poe?
Somebody ripped off Poe.
Like who's to know that though?
Poe evidently was known for kind of tweaking the public sometimes.
Yeah,
stories.
Yeah,
so it could very well have been Poe.
Yeah, there was. I mean, obviously, it didn't get published until after he died, but
and that's why it leads people to say, well, it probably wasn't Poe, but it could have been.
Yeah, but that's again, right? That's how we don't know, because it was much later after he died. So yeah, who knows?
Yeah,
I guess.
Let's move from it's a hoax to the next theory.
It's not a hoax?
It's been found.
Yeah.
I found one website that purports that this group of guys has found the location of the treasure.
I can't with this guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
They found it and they've dug it up, or they just know exactly where it is?
They've dug part of it up.
Here's how it goes. They say they decoded page 1 and page 3. And I have a major problem with that because they show the decoded text, but nowhere do they say how they decoded it.
Yeah.
So they could have just made it up.
Well, obviously they had to.
It sets me off right there. It throws the radar. But according to these gentlemen, they found it in the hills there in Virginia,
and they dug it up,
and it was a cave. It was an outcropping with a cave, and they dug in there.
I'm sorry, was it a cleft?
I don't know if it was cleft exactly, but they went in there and they didn't find the treasure. But what they did find was remnants of supposedly the pots that Beale had left it in. So there were some legs, some iron pot. Remember, it said it had they were in iron pots. They say that these were the short, stubby legs. It would have been on the pots. And there's an iron spike and a piece of leather and a buckle, which I'm presuming that would have been to tie it shut.
There's so many things that are problems here.
An iron buckle?
Well, the buckle was iron, and then it was a piece of leather there with it. Yes, but it's just...
But, why... The legs don't break off of iron pots. Why would there be no legs?
Unless somebody... Well, I'm okay. I'm just going to hypothesize here. I'm just going to spitball on this, that somebody else had found the treasure before they got there, and they broke the pots, and then they threw away, and then the rest of it just sat there and rusted away.
Oh, broke open the pots?
Broke open the pots.
But
I don't say that's right, but I'm just for a second going to stand in defense of these guys and say, well, this is why they've only found that. They've never found any gold. They never found any silver. They never found any jewels.
So if somebody broke a pot open, right, in the middle of a cave where there's dust and all that stuff, one piece of gold is going to get left behind.
A nugget is going to fall
Stuff
away.
is going to get left. Yeah. Other than just weird little legs or a buckle.
Yes.
Yeah. So these guys essentially deciphered the text of document number 1. They put it on their webpage, and this text that they put on their webpage tells you where to go find this.
Not exactly.
Yeah.
What does the text say?
Well, what's listed on their website does give some information.
Just
here, I'll just read.
Okay.
According to this website, a guy named Daniel Cole is the one who cracked this.
Somehow that name makes me irrationally angry for no reason.
Okay.
All right.
Here's it says 19 is the distance south, left onto second point. 2's on first part of main rock, south in east wall, ground on south 6 feet deep. Open front side of point straight down, the point in front, upper part, remove rocks, then with them remove dirt, 5 feet down and round. Now open point, 2's wall straight in. Now open south side, now on down under point.
Okay, I have such a problem with this.
It makes no sense
No,
to start with.
okay, but fine, whatever. Even if it did make sense, it's not written the same.
Well, exactly. I mean,
it doesn't sound like the same author.
No, I mean, no, I'm not at all, and it's not.
Not even close.
No.
I agree.
No. It actually, you know what it sounds like to me? It sounds like to me, I remember one time I bought a PC back when I did PCs, and I got a card for the PC. It was like a sound card or whatever, and it had this little manual that came with it, and it had installations for installing it, and everything like that. And there was this one paragraph that was just hilariously bad because it looked like somebody
poorly translated.
Looked like somebody had put it in like written it in Chinese and then transcribed it word for word from an English-Chinese dictionary.
Yeah.
And that's what that reminds me of.
Yeah.
It's not good.
No.
It's not a good thing.
No, it's BS. But the other thing, what I'm wondering about is another theory that I just came up with. Yeah, exactly.
And you just came up with a theory?
Yeah,
Joe, you never do that.
I know.
What are you doing? You're breaking tradition here.
I know.
What do you got?
It's leprechauns. Okay. Well, think about it. Pots of gold, number one. Number two, they find a leather belt and a buckle, fragment of it. Okay? There's some big old clues there.
If there's a green felt hat in there, he's got it.
Yeah, but here's the other thing. It's like,
it would have disintegrated by now.
Yeah.
No, it's a leprechaun hat. They don't go away.
They do
They're
too.
magic.
Nope.
Yeah, but here is the deal. It's like the leprechaun theory is almost as credible because these guys were out in Colorado and they find this cleft in a ravine that's got gold in it. So number one, veins of gold are not immediately apparent. They don't look like anything. There's usually not another vein of a cool little accompanying vein of silver somewhere really close by. But,
yeah, they're completely different minerals.
Yeah.
They don't normally go together.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Well, they go together nicely, but not necessarily in the ground. But, and so, in other words, if it was a vein of gold, that kind of thing, it's mixed in with a lot of other minerals. You've got to pull out tons of ore.
You smelt it.
And you have to smelt it, and you have to have a big factory thing. I mean, something that 30 guys out in the wilderness are not going to be able to probably do.
Not easily.
Which makes it, that particular thing, not credible. So what if they found some leprechaun stash of gold?
But what if they have 50 horses, too?
Yeah. They just happen to have 50 horses along.
Does that make it easier?
Well, if they're unicorns with wings, then they can easily get back to Virginia.
Got it. Okay.
All right, we're done with Fantasyland. Let's move on to the next theory.
All right, so you're not buying a leprechaun theory, huh?
Well, I actually really like that, as in I think it's hilarious, but no, I'm not buying it.
Oh, okay, fine.
The final theory is that the treasure's still out there and that it's real. Here's a couple of things that point to it. So, as we said, they use that abbreviated version of the Declaration of Independence to get this supposed deciphering of page 2.
The drunken slurrings of a man, yes.
Yes. Well, if you take the Declaration and you try and decipher or decode paper 1 using the Declaration, what you get is a sequence of letters at the start, which are A, B, F, D, E, F, G, H, I, I, J, K, L, M, M, N, O, H, P, P. So this, people say, in frequency, the chances of those letters coming up on their own is 0, but that frequency has the appearance of quite possibly being a set of words. But people are saying that it's possible that while paper 2 just used a regular book cipher, paper 1 and 3 may have been encoded and then encoded again. So they were double. So it's a double or a supersize.
That's the way I would do it if I had a big secret.
And I guess that would make sense, right? Because those are the two pieces of information that are more sensitive, right? The second one is just kind of like, this is kind of what we have.
Yeah, but the location,
Cool.
that's pretty,
But the location,
important.
super important. Again, I have issue with, like, the name of people who should be getting this. Like, I don't understand why they would need to be encoded in the first place, let alone double encoded.
Yeah, and also the number 3 is like, as it's been pointed out, this thought is not original to me, but 30 guys, okay, their names, the names of their next of kin, where they live, and you're going to do all that in 800 characters or less?
Well, and that's the problem, is that document, people have said there is not enough characters in that document to list off all that information.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah.
So there's a serious issue there.
Right.
But we're gonna continue to run down the path of it is totally true and it is still out there.
And I assume that people have used other
documents from the founding of our country and around that time. Yes, people have tried to use the Constitution and all those great historical documents.
The Kama Sutra?
I don't think they've used that one.
Well, there you go.
But otherwise, to no avail to crack this particular set of ciphers. There is, if we're going down the it's real path,
which we of course are.
So there's a chance that the person, our pamphleter who put out the pamphlet that told us everything that we know about this, may have taken and scrambled the code that was listed in paper 1 and paper 3.
What?
Changed all the numbers,
He mixed them up. And here's the reason, is that supposedly there was somebody else out there who had the key. So if that person gets a hold of the pamphlet and then tries to decode it themselves, it's not going to work. So then they're going to have to turn around and they're going to have to come to him, the person who possesses the actual ciphered text, so that then they can go in on it 50-50 and split it. So basically he's forcing somebody's hand to come to him and pay out.
Yeah.
It makes sense when you kind of step back from it a little bit. A little weird.
So in this telling of the story, then he never actually cracked the cipher at all. He just pretended to crack number 2 and scrambled numbers 1 and 3.
Oh, no. Well, I mean, you can look at it both ways. Either he didn't actually do it and he pretended to crack it, or he did crack number 2, but he couldn't crack number 1. But in an effort to draw that person out, he screwed up the numbers intentionally in 1 and 2 so that they had to come to him and say, hey, wait, something's not right here because I've totally got the key. Oh, you got the key? Awesome. I totally got the real cipher. Let's split it, buddy.
It's interesting because that seems really unlikely. I mean, anybody that this group of 30 men would have trusted with the key to the cipher, right? Would ostensibly not then go and say, oh yeah, by the way, I have the key to this thing. Let's split it 50-50, right? That's ostensibly a fairly trustworthy person.
But we're also looking at how much time has passed. We're looking at nearly 40 years.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
Hell of a lot of them are dead. Yeah.
So. You've got to imagine most, if not all, have passed by that point.
All right.
Yeah, it's an interesting little conundrum there. But
and we have one more.
Oh, we do?
We have one more that says that it was real, but it's kind of a crackpot version.
Those are my favorite.
Love those. Does it have to do with like lizard people living in the center of the earth?
No, I'm afraid it's not the lizard people.
What about a mass conspiracy from our government?
Yeah, it does. People say, because the NSA and other organizations in the government who are code breakers have used the Beale cipher as a training tool and had their candidates try to figure it out. So it's been theorized that the NSA or some other government organization, not pointing at the NSA, but some government organization who has a lot of code breaking people around, has figured out what this thing said, went and got it, and dumped all that gold into the national coffers.
Which makes sense because we have a lot of money.
Yeah, and there's been many times when this country has been desperately in need of money. Like now.
For our government, $30 million is like a nickel to you and I.
Yeah, well, but hey, you know what? A little bit here is a little bit there, and so this theory says that they've gone and already gotten it. And that's why these other guys who found just the pieces of iron Well, we found the pieces of iron because
Okay.
the feds have come in and taken it.
The feds are way better at extraction than that. Let's be totally honest here.
Yeah,
They're not leaving anything behind.
They can easily extract, money directly out of our bank accounts and our wallets. They don't need to bother with gold. But another
apparently
theory,
you were looking at it from today. What if this was 100 years ago they did it?
Mm-hmm. I don't know if we had the decryption. I mean,
no, we didn't.
Intel didn't really.
Okay, let's say it was the 1950s.
Yeah, let's say it's the 50s or the 60s. It's entirely credible. What I think would be more likely is that government employees who are very skilled at decryption could very well have cracked this. But why would you tell the feds about it? If you've got access to the computers and everything else, you got access to these resources, you could crack it. And you and a few of your buddies from the office go down there and grab it. I mean, that would make a lot more sense.
That's a possibility.
I guess my big problem with them actually being able to solve this thing, right, is that isn't there like a cipher that's like right in front of, what is it, the CIA?
Uh-huh.
Where like, yeah, and they've only deciphered one of the 3 panels there. Come on, man. If you can't figure that thing out, right, like, how are you going to figure this thing out?
This is a... And I don't know if this has occurred to anybody in our government or not, but think about this. I mean, because that other governments are trying to read our mail all the time. So think about it. Wouldn't it be tempting to actually put out gibberish that's not even cipher, but it looks totally like a cipher, and let them waste valuable man hours and energy trying to decipher those?
I think you've brought this up before.
Yeah,
seems likely.
Yeah.
What if the second one is the only one that is a legitimate one, but it needs to be deciphered with something other than the Declaration of Independence, right? Some other
Following. So are you saying that the Declaration was correct in an interpretation, but there's another document
and it has another meaning?
So somebody had to match up 2 books basically and find words that were on the same number that had the same letters? That's extremely difficult.
I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that like this guy came up with an okay interpretation.
Oh, you're saying
off of the Declaration of Independence. He got to something that like could be made into something that kind of made some coherent sense.
I got it.
But that perhaps he used the wrong document.
It is entirely conceivable. I can see what you're saying.
That's the only one that's actually decipherable.
I got it.
It might be that, like, say, if you grabbed a copy of any Dickens novel, say Tale of Two Cities, it might be that is the key,
Yeah,
and that it's just a coincidence that some letters randomly in the 2 of them happen to coincide.
It turns out English, it's pretty easy to make words.
Yeah.
We do it all the time.
We do it all the time.
Yeah, so it might actually be an entirely different key.
I don't know that anybody's thought about that. I'm definitely not the cipherologist of this crew. So I'm not saying
cryptographer?
No, cipherologist.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm making sure I knew which title we were going with.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that like my theory is better than anyone else's, of course, but what if? What if it was the idiot who figured it out this time?
Yeah, good point. You're the savant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing about it is like people are looking for the key, and it's like, okay, so you got this thing with all these numbers in it, and so it's got to be a document, and these numbers have to represent a word, of which we will take the first letter of that document. It could be an entirely different kind of cipher.
Yeah, it totally
could.
I
mean, so that's the whole thing. That's one reason I'm not going to really waste any time trying to break this particular one. It's interesting to try to come up with ideas as to what kind of a cipher it would be. If I were constructing a cipher like that, I would have something that would be more diabolical, like, say, a 3-letter or a 3-digit number would represent, say, 715, 715. It's not the 715th word in there, but instead what it is, it's like, say, the 7th line down, and then the first column in, and then 5 letters beyond that in the alphabet. I would do something like that.
You do this with your diary, don't you?
I totally do.
Dude, this is how he sends emails. Haven't you gotten emails from him?
He goes to the round file.
Yeah, this is how he does it.
Yeah, but you see kind of what I'm talking about.
Oh, I see.
Those
where
numbers
you're going.
can represent something entirely different than what these people are saying.
You can determine how they get used however you want.
Yeah,
and I see where you're heading with
I feel like this is just one for the ages.
It kind of is, because that's our theories. That's it. We're out.
I think that I think that it's almost certainly a hoax. but pamphlets back in those days actually made money. They were just like selling a book, and you could write a pamphlet,
publish it however you want, and
make all
no
kinds of money.
fact-checking.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, there's no fact-checking going on today.
Since I heard that they didn't have the internet, it was pretty hard to check those facts, right?
Yeah.
You couldn't just Google.
No.
Yeah. But again, the fact that this guy used a kind of non-existent version of the Declaration of Independence as a key, and somehow that managed to successfully translate all these numbers into a meaningful message.
Huge coincidence.
Yeah.
It's that's kind of damning in and of itself.
I agree.
Devin, what do you think? Where do you lean on this?
I don't know where I lean. I really want to believe this is one of those stories that, in the heart of any true American, right? You really want to believe that these people could have gone out and found all this gold and struck it rich and hid it, and it's still hidden somewhere. But when I really sit down to think about it,
would you do that?
No.
You'd spend
I definitely wouldn't. I'm lazy, and I wouldn't have done that. And people back then were less lazy than I am, and that's fine. But that's a really far way. Why not just hide it someplace in Colorado?
Yeah.
There are a lot of really great hiding places in Colorado. Why take it all the way to Virginia to hide it, and then write this crazy cipher? I feel like hoax.
Yeah.
I hate advocating for hoaxes. But
because you want to believe it. It's a fun story.
Yeah.
It's cool and everything, but
none
of it makes sense.
I got to tell you, this may be a first. We have a unanimous decision here because I personally, after all of my research, have been inclined that this is a hoax. And here's a bit of information that we haven't shared yet. Is this pamphlet that came out? This person had a huge quantity of these pamphlets printed, but only a small number of them got out. And then supposedly there was a set of warehouse fires in a district, and the press house that they were all stored at also went up in flames. And so that's where, and oh my gosh, there's no more copies of it, which seems like if this guy was really real, he'd have just paid up and had some more made.
Yeah,
and it's a little odd.
Yeah, well, another theory I heard about that is that it got out. This was a local guy who wrote this. He probably wrote it to make some money or whatever, and then when it went out, people went nuts, and because the note number 2 has
the allure of it.
Yeah, the allure of it, but basically this does define kind of an area, although it's a broad area, a circle with a 4-mile radius around Buford's Tavern in Virginia.
Not that big of an area.
Yeah, seriously. And so apparently one theory is that this guy knew a lot of people locally, and when treasure hunters went out and started digging up everybody's property and graveyards and everything else, this guy realized, holy crap, what have I done? And so he
made a monster.
He created a monster, and so he destroyed these things, or probably maybe they're in a fire, or maybe he just threw them in the river or something like that. But that's another theory about the whole thing, which I find believable. It's a shame to waste.
No, that's a good point. But I unfortunately I have to say that I don't believe this one. There's just too many inconsistencies for one.
No. The underlying story is not credible about these guys going out finding gold. You don't just find gold lying around. You have to set up a big operation to refine it.
Yeah, like we've said, there's a whole bunch of logistics here that just don't seem to pan out.
Yeah, and then getting all stressed out about oh my God, it's so insecure to have the gold just hidden around here, buried in the ground. Let's send somebody alone back east to bury it in the ground back east instead. Yeah. That doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't make sense all around.
Yeah, no.
Well, if you have any information or theories that you want to proffer about this, you're more than welcome to do that.
And if you're Thomas Jefferson Beale and you're actually a lizard person who's immortal, then please do contact us.
You can get a hold of us a couple ways. You can go to our website, thinkingsidewayspodcast.com. While you're on there, of course, you can always leave a comment. And of course, you can listen to the episode while you're on there as well. Most likely, a lot of folks have been using the website to listen, but a lot of folks also go ahead and go to download it from iTunes. If you're on iTunes, take the time, leave us a comment and a rating. We've been getting a lot of traffic on iTunes lately.
Yeah.
That's been fantastic.
And thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Loving to hear everything from everybody.
I want to do a shout out to Arcade Gannon, fellow Fallout follower. What up, yo?
No idea what that means, but
Yeah,
okay.
sure.
He'll know.
Okay.
Or her. I don't know.
Okay, well, at least they'll know. You can always find our episodes on Stitcher. So if you don't want to take the time, you're not able to download it, and you don't want to go directly to the site, you can just get it there on any mobile device. Very easy to stream right then and there. And last but not least, you could go ahead and send us an old-fashioned email. If you want to send us an email...
I like that email is old-fashioned.
Yeah,
now.
you can send us an even more old-fashioned, like just snail mail.
No,
And
we don't
our
have a
address
P.O. box.
is Thinking Sideways General Delivery.
No, the email address is thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. And speaking of listener mail, we've been a little tardy on getting some of these listener mails that we've picked out that we've liked.
And we like a
flagged.
lot of them, though.
Yeah,
it's
and
been a
that's-
little crazy these
It's
past
been a little
couple of
crazy.
weeks.
We've got a bunch of them, and
Well-
there's been a number that we've wanted to read, and things have just kind of conspired against us. So I'm making an effort today. We're just going to go ahead
Oh my
and...
gosh, are we going to read all of them?
well, we've got 3 of them that we're going to read. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Oh,
All right,
only
let's
3?
do it.
Only 3 of them. So let's go
Okay,
ahead
fine, let's hear
and
it.
let me grab the first one. The first email is from Matt, and Matt said, I got a response from you on Reddit a while back and have spent the last few weeks listening to your podcast. I'm a really big fan, and you guys have added an inquisitive nature to my walk to work.
Listen, Reddit friend.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Matt. And Matt, I don't want you to be so distracted that you get run over by a bus, so please
Yeah,
be
yeah,
careful.
please.
while
And
you're
we'll
doing
pay attention.
we'll be really careful to not do any of those like creepy like people walking to like work stories.
Yes,
good point.
that would be
And we
weird.
will slip in about every 5 minutes or so a quick, like, Matt, look behind you.
Check both ways.
Yeah.
I enjoy the devil's advocate elements of your podcast and how you can switch standpoints a few times during a podcast. And Matt then goes on to share a story that he was thought that we should look into, and we're going to exchange some emails because he's got some information on it. But evidently he was writing this email kind of late at night, and so he couldn't write anymore, which is totally understandable. I mean, it depends on what his schedule is.
Did it sort of
Yeah.
like fade off into a bunch of Z's? That's what happens to me. It's
Yeah.
like, and then
No,
Yeah.
that's not actually what happened,
Oh,
Joe,
okay.
but thank you.
So this next one is from a guy named Thomas. He says, "Hey, my name is Thomas, and about 2 weeks ago, I got into your show and binged on all the episodes. I love your show a lot. Your show is exactly what I was looking for in terms of a podcast that covers weird unsolved mysteries, and I like how you take a more logical approach to the mysteries instead of always drawing aliens or conspiracy theories.
hey, not that we
I'm-
don't believe in that stuff.
We just tend to not advocate for it so much.
Yeah.
I am definitely looking forward to hearing more episodes in the future. By the way, Joe kind of sounds like John Goodman, and I'm sure I'm not the first person to point that out.
Actually, I think he is.
Thomas, you are. The first
Yeah,
person
the
to
very-
have
yeah.
ever said that. But as soon as you said it, I was like, he totally does.
I sound like John Goodman?
Totally.
I had never made that connection.
And then you listened
I
to it
sure
and you
as
were
hell
like,
haven't.
oh my gosh.
Well, now I'm going to have a famous person in my ears every time I edit a show.
You're
It's gonna be
welcome.
Great.
It's gonna be
Thank
perfect.
you, Thomas.
Yeah, by the way, Thomas, I'm not as big as he is. I
Yeah,
like John Goodman. He's a great guy. He's just, but yeah, don't want to be as big as he
Yeah,
is.
you do a little bit sound like him though.
Oh, okay.
We'll go.
Oh,
We'll
okay.
like watch the Big Lebowski.
Now I'm gonna be all self-conscious about it.
Yeah.
Oh, by
But-
the way, I love the Big Lebowski.
Yeah, so then Thomas like suggests a couple shows. That seems to be like the trend, right? Everybody
yeah.
has like awesome feedback and also do these shows.
Yes, and,
So
and we've
we'll
got a list of them,
definitely-
and we're working through them as
totally are.
as we mix them into the list. So
yeah, yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, thanks, Thomas.
Thank you, Thomas. Okay. Okay, now our next email is from Jeremy. Hi, Jeremy. So here it goes. Hello, greetings from Wyoming. I drive for UPS and listen to podcasts all day. I bet you would in a job like that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
imagine you
I totally
couldn't listen
would.
to just the radio, and especially if it's he's kind of in a rural area.
Wyoming is all rural.
Okay, well, then you might not get radio stations constantly.
Yeah, okay. Yes. Well, anyway, sorry for the interruption, Jeremy. I'm going to start from the top. Okay, greetings from Wyoming. I drive for UPS and let's listen to podcasts all day. Yours was coincidentally suggested to me the night before I started covering for a rural driver for 2 weeks. I really love the subjects you've covered so far in my attempt to catch up from the beginning.
He's enjoyed his attempt, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so he's listened to what's come out and he's working through the backlog, which is great.
Okay, so I would love it if Okay, we actually have been considering some of those topics, and we probably will delve into at least a few of them.
Well, you know what's great?
Yeah.
One of those is the Beale Cipher.
Mm-hmm.
Which we
just talked about.
Thanks,
exactly.
Jeremy.
And another one, is one we're going to be talking about sometime in the next few weeks. Anyway, so to continue reading your email, Jeremy, either way, please keep up the great work because I drive a lot. All caps. I bet you do. So, okay, we're going to do extra long episodes just for Jeremy.